Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. I'm coming to you from a super cool location today. We're in Muscle Shoals, Alabama at Fame Studios with Rodney Hall. It's great to be here.
Great to have you, Mitch.
We're down here for the Muscle Shoals Songwriting Festival, and we couldn't resist swinging by and chatting with you and just checking out this amazing place.
Absolutely. It's great to have you guys.
Yeah, man. So obviously the documentary came out, and there's a lot about Fame that's happening there, but tell us a little bit about how you remember the studio and how the whole thing kind of came together.
Well, I grew up in it, obviously, and I was coming around here when I was, a toddler and, playing with baffles and hanging out in the booths and going through all the records and just hanging out. It was just my dad's work. It wasn't anything special to me at the time. It was, I'd come in and play with the ashtrays, which we don't smoke in here anymore, but at one time every musician in the room had an ashtray at their disposal. But it was a magical time looking back at it. It was it was the golden era of recording from mid '60s through the end of the '70s. It was everybody you can imagine coming through here, from Otis Redding to Little Richard to Wilson Pickett to Aretha Franklin, Etta James. So yeah, it was magical.
Man, it just had to. Although, like you say, when you're living it and you're here and it's what you do every day, it probably doesn't seem quite that way. But in retrospect, what a phenomenal thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of surreal to look back at the mountain of music that's been recorded here over the last 60 years.
Right. One of the things that stands out to me is there has to be something in this area, because I was just thinking about kind of the three groups that were the kind of studio musicians here. You had the original band, then the Swampers, and then the Fame Gang, right?
Right, and the Fame Gang ended up being multiple. There was multiple iterations of that. We're still doing that today.
Right. So what is it about the area that creates all that great?
There's just an energy here, and it's just a lifestyle. It's a laid-back lifestyle. We try to have a creative vibe here at the studio. And, it's just a lot of talented people coming together. In the beginning, it was just local guys that were working together. And, I have a theory that it all goes back to that there wasn't anything to do here. This was a dry county back in the day, and there wasn't anything to do here but play music. So they sit around on their porches and played music together. And so in the beginning, it was local guys, but then after word got out and the Muscle Shoals Sound was created here, then people just started coming from everywhere. Musicians, songwriters, engineers started gravitating here, and that's still happening to this day.
Right. One of the cool things is that you've got two rooms here, the A room, and we're in the B room, the live room.
Right.
And you've kept the aesthetic and the acoustics and things you've kept them from the way they were back in the day.
Absolutely. It's been very important to us. And my dad was always very scared to change anything after he'd had the amount of success he'd had. So we're very vigilant about keeping things, the way they are. We get people coming in here from time to time like, well, why don't you update the decor? It's like, why would we?
Right. You don't fix what's not broken, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Right. But you have stayed on top of gear and things, so you've got a combination of some of the vintage gear, but also some new things.
Absolutely. We've just redone our Studio B control room recently with my friend Glenn Rosenstein. And we put a SSL 6000 in there, and we've got tons of outboard gear, and obviously, Pro Tools, the latest versions of everything. Mm-hmm. And we just recently, matter of fact, yesterday it was announced we've got an IK multimedia plug-in, Fame Studios Reverb plug-in that's coming out.
That is super awesome. I saw the announcement for that. So is that one of the rooms, or is it an echo chamber, or what is that?
It's all the rooms. It's all the booths. It's all the rooms. It's all the chambers. It's the EMT plates. It's everything.
So you really can put the fingerprint of Muscle Shoals on the Fame Studio, rather, on your own recordings using the plugin.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So the chambers, it's all of it.
Right.
And we just refurbished our chamber for the first time in 40 years. It's been we haven't used it in close to 40 years.
Oh, wow. So you've got an actual real chamber here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. The other thing I noticed in the control room here in Studio B is you've got the original custom console.
Yeah, we just got that back when we redid the studio. That was the original console in this room, built for this room, and the first artist to ever record on that console was the original iteration of the Allman Brothers.
Oh, wow.
So it was Duane and J-Mo and Paul Hornsby and some different people.
Right.
But yeah, we just got it back. It was been in the Alabama Music Hall of Fame for the last 30 years. We'd loaned it to them, and we got it back, and we're refurbishing it, and just got 4 channels happening so far, and we got another 4 we're working on. So
That is so cool.
yeah, it's amazing sounding. It really is.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Duane was actually a session musician here for a while.
Yes, he was a session musician. He was signed as a songwriter, and recorded on his first hit records as a musician with Clarence Carter and Wilson Pickett and Aretha Franklin and so forth and so on.
Right,
Yeah.
right, man. It's so amazing when you start going back and looking at all that history. Is just astounding.
It really is. It really is. It's a mountain of music, and then you get into you talk about the classics, and then you get into the songs that were big but not that big. They were big on the R&B charts, or they're big on the country charts, or big on whatever. And it's just so much music. It would take months, or maybe years to just listen to it all.
Right, right. Yeah, there really have been several kind of eras of music that have come out of here, because the original was more the Aretha Franklin and Wilson Pickett and that era, and then there was sort of a pop era in the 70s, and then a country era, Shenandoah and bands like that came out of here.
Yep.
Did the studio have to change to accommodate that?
Not really. Not really. You'd use a little different musician, list, but for the most part, it's a lot of the same guys doing all those records. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there was the soul era, and then there was the pop era, and then the country era, and then there's actually like a songwriting era. Mm-hmm. For the 90s and the early 2000s, we were known as mainly a songwriting town. Mm-hmm. But that's all picked up, and we do a little of all of it.
Right, right. Do you know how Rick taught himself how to engineer and produce?
So my dad had a weekly radio show in Hamilton, Alabama on WERH with his band, and they would play for, I don't know if it's 30 minutes or an hour, but he learned how to use the equipment in the radio station, and that's how he kind of taught himself. And then he just started recording demos, mm-hmm. and he didn't even know what a producer was at the time. You didn't really have independent producers, so he started doing people's demos, and he became the guy with the tape machine, so he became the producer.
Right. That's awesome. And he was a very accomplished musician himself, as well as a producer,
songwriter, musician,
right,
producer, engineer, publisher, pretty much
right.
the gamut.
Right. Yeah, it is fascinating that not only is the vibe of all those classic records through all those different eras great, but the sound quality of them is also phenomenal, given the studios from the early 60s. I mean, the fidelity is really great.
It's amazing. You pull up those multi-tracks, about like 4-track recordings, and you put them on 0, and it's mixed.
Yeah.
It just sounds just like the record. They were recorded very well. He was a really good engineer in the early days, and later in his life, technology kind of got ahead of him. But he had to have somebody to do it for him. But in the early days, he was a great engineer.
Yeah, but definitely it comes across on those recordings are phenomenal. How would you feel about maybe giving us a little walk around the studio and pointing out some of the sites?
I'd love to. Yeah,
let's do it.
All right.
So we're outside the studio, and this would have been like out in the country, right? I mean, it was.
Oh yeah, this would have been Phil. This is where Duane Allman camped out when he moved here.
Oh right, that's a great story.
Yeah, right here.
Right. So just cotton fields around here, and he decided to put the studio out in this location. And...
Yeah, well, it was the cheapest land he could find.
Nice.
I think he paid $10,000, borrowed $10,000, built the building, bought the property.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That investment paid off, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's head inside.
All right, sounds good. Yes, sir.
The famous sign over the entry to the actual studios.
Yeah.
Where'd that sign come from?
My dad made that up at some point. But yeah, it's been here at least late 60s, early 70s.
Nice. So down here you have the business office, obviously.
Right.
When you have tours, you bring folks in this way.
Right,
and
got a gift
well.
shop. These were originally offices, accounting offices and so forth.
Right.
And now this is still an office, but we've got a gift shop over here.
Very nice. So I'm sure everybody's excited to head in this way,
Yeah,
right?
let me show you around.
Yeah.
Come on back. All right, Mitch, this is our Studio A. This was the original studio. It was built in 1961. And this is where Aretha Franklin found her sound. This is where Clarence Carter cut his first hit records, Patches. Slip Away, Candy Staten, Little Richard, Otis Redding, Lou Rawls, Solomon Burke.
Man.
You name it.
Man,
you name
it's
it. I could
incredible.
go on for a while.
So when it started out, was it? Did your dad build it with this acoustic, like the diffusion and things, or was this?
You know,
added?
it's evolved over the years. When it started out, it was just an empty room, and he had baffles like this. Had several of those, and he would move those around. And then he built some half booths over here at one point, and then later on built the booths in the back. And the diffuser was added in the late '70s.
Yeah, it's a fascinating ceiling, the way that you've got the grid.
Yeah,
it
was interesting when they built it. I don't think I would want to get up on top of it because it's hanging by wires.
Right.
But yeah, it was interesting to watch them build it. It was built up there.
Right.
Yeah.
The other fascinating thing in this room, of course, is one can only imagine who's played these instruments.
The instruments. This Wurlitzer. We've got two Wurlitzers, one in Studio B and one over here. So, you know, one of them played on everything that's come through here pretty much.
Crazy.
You know, from I Never Loved a Man on Aretha to Mustang Sally, Patches, on and on.
Man.
Organ's been here since '71, and I'll show you all the other instruments. We've got everything going back to the beginning pretty much.
Wow. Well, that is a...
So, they're all phenomenal instruments and have proven so over time.
Yeah, no doubt. Man, phenomenal. I noticed the Leslie is back in one of the booths back there for the Hammond, and of course the grand piano. And man, I keep saying man, but it's so cool.
Yeah, so this is where it happened. I'm going to take you up into the control room.
Okay.
See the console. Yeah, so this is a Neve 8232 that we installed in the early '80s. There's been several different consoles in here. MCI, we had a couple different MCIs, Flickingers, UA, but this has been here longer than any of the others.
Right.
This was my dad's baby. He loved it. He bought this and just it was his favorite for sure.
Right. That's a beauty.
Our Pro Tools rig, which was bought from Sweetwater.
Nice. Thank you.
Absolutely. A lot of this gear was bought from Sweetwater. So
nice. Well, we appreciate it. I noticed I was taking a little tour through the gift shop, and I noticed you've got jewelry made out of the capacitors.
Yeah. We
man.
recapped this console in 2015, I think, and we've got 10,000 capacitors, so we're repurposing them.
That's brilliant. Well, I'm taking one home with me. That is too cool, man. That is so sweet. Yeah.
But yeah, this room originally had a bathroom in it. There was a bathroom right there.
Wow.
And that they quickly found out that it wasn't a good idea to have a bathroom in the control room. For many reasons.
Right on. It's a compact space, but it's very warm feeling, and it feels and sounds comfortable.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal sounding room, and it was, there wasn't sound designers in 1961. There was, my dad went to Nashville and he'd befriended Owen Bradley up there, who had a studio, and Owen let him step off his studio, and he built it to the same dimensions as that studio,
nice.
And it's got a magical sound to it. It really does, and of course we still do analog recording and we do digital recording. So.
Right, 2-inch machines.
Yep.
Yeah, nice. A little bit of the vintage and a little bit of the modern. Love
Absolutely. Well, let's go check out Studio B.
Right on.
All right, so this is our lounge, so to speak. It's between the two studios. This is where the musicians come hang out between takes and tell jokes and lies and secrets.
Man.
So if these walls could talk,
I can't imagine. Just the photos. I mean, everybody from Steven Tyler to Etta James, Greg Allman, Duane Allman. Wow.
Yeah.
We were saying, I had mentioned to you that we watched the documentary, obviously, and just the fact that you have so many photos and so much archival footage and stuff from those early sessions is really astounding.
Yeah, we've got thousands of pictures. My dad would hire a photographer for every major session, so I'm not sure why he did that, but I'm glad he did.
Yeah, we all are. We're all amazing.
It's pretty phenomenal.
So very cool.
Yeah. So let's go into the main room, Studio B here.
Okay, let's do it.
So this is our Studio B main room, and this was added on in 1967.
Okay.
They were having so much business they needed a second room, so they added this room for bands and for publishing demos and that kind of thing. So the first band that played in here, and they actually formed in here, was the Allman Brothers. This is actually a picture of Duane, Barry, Oakley, and J-Mo when they were setting up to jam for the very first time in this room.
That's crazy.
They just met. Duane was a session musician here, and the other guys, he had heard about them through other people, and had them come up here and basically try out, and that was the first time they ever jammed together. Then later Greg came, and they all played together in this room.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That is just crazy. What a moment.
So yeah, let me show you some of these instruments. Behind us, we've got a harpsichord. My dad heard this on a Barry White record and said, I gotta have one. So he went and bought this. I think he paid $4,700 for it.
Wow.
In 1970.
Wow.
It's our MCI JH24 analog tape machine that has been well used over the years. As you can see, it's Y2K compliant.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah. This is our Ludwig vintage drums that have been studio drums for since the 60s. We've got a couple other sets that we use as well from time to time. Our A100 Hammond organ with the Leslie inside the booth there. We've got our second bronze Wurlitzer over here that is played on hundreds of hit records. It's an amazing instrument. And this piano was put in about 1968. And as you can see, this is little Richard here with Clayton Ivey playing this piano.
Wow.
It's been played by everyone. It was on everything pretty much from the time it was put in until about 84, 85. We bought another larger piano for Studio A, and we brought this one over here. So all these instruments have been on hundreds of millions of records sold.
Yeah.
So it's
wow.
It's kind of surreal to be surrounded by instruments that have been, involved in all these records.
Yeah, the music that's been played through those instruments is just astounding.
Yeah.
So you've got two booths in here, and I love the way they're kind of built as little cabins.
Yep. Two booths. These were added probably early 80s. But yeah, there's a drum booth. Sometimes it's vocals, sometimes it's drums, acoustic guitar, Leslie, whatever the need be.
Right. We didn't really talk about it in A, and I guess the question would be here too. Were most of those sessions done with everybody in the same room?
It's all different. Every session's a little different. In the very early days, it was everybody in the same room with baffles between them. But I mean, that's when I say everybody. That's everybody. That's horns. That's background singers. That's everybody all at the same time because they didn't have overdub capabilities.
Right.
Mono. So everybody was in the room at the same time. Then as multi-track recording progressed, they started being able to record different parts at different times. So they would do things differently then. But still to this day, some people come in, they want to record everybody in the same room to get the feel and all be, get the mojo. And some people want to have separation with certain things. And it's almost impossible to cut an acoustic guitar in a room with drums.
Sure.
So once you got it, you kind of have to do that or do it as an overdub.
Sure. Right. You got vintage amps. You got different guitars and stuff. I mean,
yeah, we've got a cabinet full of vintage microphones. RCA, Neumann's. Whatever you want.
Right, beautiful. Should we head into the control room?
Yeah. So this is Studio B control room. In 2019, my buddy Glenn Rosenstein and I decided that this needed to be a second A room and not just a B room. This has always been kind of a demo room with hand-me-down equipment from Studio A, and we decided that it deserved better than that. So we came in and left the main room like it was because there was nothing wrong with it. There was a wall here. We tore everything out, rebuilt everything back, and put in SSL 6000 console we bought from Dallas Sound Labs and loaded it up with outboard gear, and voila, it's a phenomenal room now, and we're getting lots of work in here.
Nice.
So this is the original console. UA custom built by a local guy here that worked at radio stations. We've recently gotten it back from the Alabama Music Hall of Fame where we had loaned it to them to display for years. and we got it back, and we're refurbishing it and putting it back in service. So,
Wow.
and it's amazing sounding. It's, you know, you listen to the stuff that comes through it and you go, why did they stop making this stuff?
I love the Universal Audio, the VU meters. and
Right.
Still got the old chamber label here, and EMT1 and EMT2.
Yeah, our IK plug-in that we just did is patterned after this console.
Okay.
The look of it.
Right. So it's fascinating to contrast this, which is going to give you that vintage kind of a tone, but you've also got Symphony IOs from Apogee as your inputs and outputs. There's see a bunch of tube tech gear, distressors, and all top of the line. There's a Fairchild there. I mean, man.
Yep.
Wow. Incredible stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the engineers was telling me that this console did the last 3 Stevie Ray Vaughan records.
Yes, this was his favorite console at Dallas Sound Labs, and there's a lot of artists that recorded on it there. TLC, I think it did something with the Titanic soundtrack, and lots of different things. But it's a workhorse.
Yeah.
And we love having it in here. It's the Studio B main room has always been an amazing sounding room. This room just needed a little help.
Yeah.
And love, and that's what we've done. And through Glenn's help, we've made it an amazing room.
Yeah, beautiful. And of course the little touches like the starlight, the twinkling stars on the ceiling, and the main feature of the room, of course, is that is a glorious studio sofa.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We were going for that brothel look. All right, let's go upstairs, Mitch.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is my dad's office. With all his gold records, a fraction of his gold records, not all of them, by any means. But yeah, this is kind of a time capsule. It hasn't changed a lot over the years. This is the chair that every artist that ever recorded here come in and sit. He'd play them songs, play them mixes, and go over business. You know, talk about contracts, all that kind of stuff. So this was the room where a lot of it happened. If it wasn't in the studio, it was probably in here.
Right.
So
Mac Davis, the Osmonds, Paul Anka, man, it just goes on and on and on, doesn't it?
Wilson Pickett, Shenandoah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot of music in 60 years.
Yeah, no doubt. So one of the interesting things about coming to a place like this, of course, there's so much history and things, but we talked a little bit about, you're still doing sessions here every day, and there's a lot happening.
Absolutely. You know, we've done records with the Revivalists in the last few years. We did Steven Tyler, Demi Lovato, Jennifer Hudson came in and did some things. So yeah, we're still doing it every day, and it's it's fun.
Yeah, you got a podcast that you started?
I do. It's called Through These Doors. We've done Harvey Mason Jr. from the Grammys. We did Candy Staten, Norbert Putnam, who produced Margaritaville and was one of the first musicians here. So yeah, we've been doing that. I think we've done 6 episodes. So it's a lot of fun to do to talk to these guys about history and ask them the questions I always wanted to ask.
Yeah, right. Man, I love that you've kept the vibe and a lot of even the decor from back in the day, but you're also forward thinking. You're moving in on new technologies in the studios and podcasts and plugins and all that stuff. So you're doing a great job of really balancing the old with the new.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's what we try to do. We try to keep the vibe of the old days, but stay on top of the technology and move forward. And, you know, my dad was always that way. He was, you know, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? So we're kind of trying to keep that tradition going. Let me show you into this room. So this room was originally a bar. This was a dry county, so they would bring liquor in and have it for the musicians and so forth. Let's go in here and I'll show you around.
Okay. The secret room.
Yeah, so now we've made it into a memorabilia room. It's got just a lot of pictures, a lot of records. That is the original piano from Studio A, and Aretha Franklin played that on her very first 2 hit records, I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You and Do Right Woman. It was on Mustang Sally. That's Wilson Pickett, and the picture was Spooner Oldham playing it, who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. All these instruments are original. This is my dad's original 52 Gibson.
Beautiful.
That Do Right Woman was written on and has played on tons of records. There's a picture of Clarence Carter playing it. There's a picture of Otis Redding playing it. So yeah, just a lot of history and things. Over here's the original organ that played on everything. If you remember, there's a a weird sound on Mustang side. It goes, wow, wow. There's that organ with a ton of echo on it.
Wow, so cool.
Yeah, that's a Hammond M3, and they didn't have a Leslie for it. They just they would mic the speaker.
So they would sneak up here and have a little break.
Yeah.
And then get back to recording or get back to business or whatever was going on back in the day.
Usually they waited till the session was over, and then they would get into the spirits.
Right, a good policy.
Right. Absolutely.
Man, so many great photos and album covers. It never ends, does it?
It doesn't, and there's not room for everything. It's hard to pick. We've got, like I said, we've got thousands of pictures and hundreds of album covers and things that have been done here. And it's just wall space has become a premium.
Yeah. Man, thanks so much for giving us the tour around the studio. It's just, wow, it's overwhelming, and you can just feel the vibe in the air.
Absolutely, Mitch. It's great to have you guys here. We've been customers of Sweetwater for decades, and
oh, thank you.
Absolutely, we love you guys, and love my rep Dave there, Dave Hess.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable, very easy to work with, and it's a pleasure to always buy from you guys.
That's beautiful. So I have to ask you one last question. You have been in the presence of and worked with so many phenomenal artists, musicians, songwriters. What is it that makes a great artist?
If I knew that, I'd be rich. Well, what in my mind, what makes a great artist is an artist who can emote the soul and the feeling, bring the feelings out in their vocals and in their artistry, and also that knows or has someone in their camp, a producer or whoever, that knows what song best fits that artist,
right, and
what is going to affect the people and going to make the people want to buy it or consume it in whatever way.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments in the documentary, the Muscle Shoals documentary, is your dad talking about it. The imperfections are the things that make the recordings incredible.
Right. Yeah, the human element.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what we thrive on, is bringing in a group of guys, putting them in the same room, recording, playing off each other. Well, you take this, I'll take this. And they know each other so well because we do that daily. So it's that's something that you can't get out of a computer.
It's the perfect segue. Thanks for letting us peek in and check out the studios and absorb some of the air.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great to have you.
Thanks very much, and thank you for joining me here at Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.